What is going on, guys? Welcome back. In this video today, we're going to learn about AWS Bedrock or Amazon Bedrock, and we're going to learn how to integrate it into Python. So how we can build generative AI applications in Python by using AWS Bedrock. And the basic idea of this is we don't want to manage our own models. We want to build a SaaS application, for example, using these foundation models, but we don't want to manage the whole load balancing or scaling the application. We want to do that easily, and we want to do that with a reasonable pricing model. And no, this is not a sponsored video. I'm just talking about this because it's one of the main tools in the industry. Of course, you can also look for alternatives, but the basic idea is you don't want to manage all of this yourself. You want to use a service that's ready to go, pay per use, and this is what AWS Bedrock is about. We're going to learn how to do that, how to use it, and how to integrate it into generative AI applications in Python today. So let us get right into it. Alright, so let us get started right away. As I already mentioned, the idea of using Amazon Bedrock is that you don't want to manage your own AI models, your own foundation models. So you want to build an application using Llama, you want to build an application using some other open source model, for example, or also Claude or also Mistral, and you don't want to manage anything. You don't want to care about scaling. You just want to pay per use. You want to pay on demand, and you don't want to manage anything. That is what Bedrock is for. They say here it's the easiest way to build and scale generative AI applications with foundation models. I don't know if it's the easiest way, but it's a very easy way. And the main value proposition here is that you don't have to take care of anything. You just choose the models and you can easily use them in Python or also with other languages. So if you're interested in the pricing, you can go to the pricing page. Basically, you have the typical per input, per output token specification here. It can be a bit confusing because they're providing the price here per 1,000 input tokens. Usually you see that with million input and output tokens. So you just have to take that times 1,000 to get the comparison here with other APIs. But you can see here they have Llama 4, they have Llama 3.3, 3.2, they have Mistral and Anthropic models and so on. They also have stability AI models, image generation models, and all that. So you can choose the model that you want to use, but basically the setup is quite straightforward, and this is what we're going to talk about in this video today. So I'm not going to talk about setting up an AWS account. I'm going to trust you to do that on your own. So just make sure you have an account on AWS, and then you want to go to the service called Amazon Bedrock. So you just type Bedrock up here, and then you're taken to this page here. And from here, it's quite straightforward what you have to do. You have to select a location. Why is this important? Because different models are supported in different locations. And especially if you're not in the US, this might be interesting to you because if you have, for example, a SaaS company in the EU, there are certain regulations that you need to follow. So you cannot just go and use the US location. At least you should be informed that, you should know what you're doing if you're doing that. So maybe if you have a European startup, you don't want to use the US location, you want to use a European location. And also within Europe, for example, you have different models being available in different location. For example, if I go to Frankfurt, I'm not able to use Mistral Large, at least right now. If I go to Paris, since Mistral is also a French company, I do have the option of using Mistral Large. And you can see what is available by going to providers. Here you can see the different companies, but you can also go to the model catalog, and here you can see the exact models that are supported in your respective region. So for example, I can go and use Claude 3.7 Sonnet, I can use Cloud 3.5 Sonnet, I can use Mistral 7B Instruct, or 8 times 7B Instruct, which is the mixture of experts, so Mixtral. Then I have also large, so I can use these models. And if I go, for example, I think to something like US East 2, I should have even more models available. Also DeepSeek, as far as I know, so you can go here to providers. Okay, in this case, I don't have too many models. Maybe I have to go with a different location. But there is a location where you have a lot of providers. So yeah, here at least you have the DeepSeek model. You also have an additional Mistral model, as I can see here. But regardless, you just choose a location that works for you. You choose a model that works for you, and you basically just have to enable them, and then you can use them right away. So in my case here, I'm going to go to Paris because I want to use Mistral, and I'm going to go to down here to model axis, and then all I have to do is I have to click on modify model axis, and I have to choose the models that I want to use. Now, one thing that's important to know here, it doesn't really produce any problems, but If you want to use a Claude model, you have to provide a reason, and it takes some time for you to get approved, so to access to be granted. If you use something like Llama or Mistral, you basically just select it, you go to next, and you go to submit, and then immediately you have access. So it's very straightforward. Now I have Llama 3.2, 1 billion, 3 billion instruct enabled, and also the different Mistral text models. So what I can do now, if I don't want to jump right into the programming, is I can go to the playground. So I can go here to chat and text, and I can select a model to play around with. So for example, I can go with Mistral large, and I can say on demand, apply. And what I can also do is I can enable compare mode, which means I can compare the output of Mistral large with the output of, for example, Llama 3.2, 3 billion instruct. So apply. And now what I can do is I can close the configuration, or I can also set up the configuration if I want to. I can set the temperature, I can set the response length. I can also, here in the case of Mistral large, I can set a system prompt, whatever. And then I can just send a request, and I can see what the output looks like. So for example, explain to me the global interpreter lock in Python. So I submit this, and then I can see which one produces the output first, so which one is faster, and I can also see which one produces a better response. So in this case here, I get this response from Mistral large, explaining the GIL, and here now we see the response from Llama 3.2. It's cut off because I have a maximum token limit. I can of course rerun that without that limit and see if I get some better result, but this is like where you can compare the models. You know, you can just play around with them and see which one you like more. And now the question is, this is now the interesting part, how can I use this in Python? How can I use this to build an application? And for this, the first thing that you want to do is you want to install the AWS CLI. This is going to set up everything on your system. For this, you will find a link in the description down below. You just go to this install page, you pick your operating system, you install the software. Depending on your operating system, it's a different procedure. And once you have done that, you also go to your console, you go to your account, you go to security credentials, and then I'm not going to click on it now because I don't want to show my credentials. But then you basically have your access key ID, and your access key, you have to generate a new one maybe if you don't have one yet. So what you need is you need to have your access key ID and your access key, and this is going to be necessary for you to authenticate yourself with the AWS CLI. So once we have all of that, we're going to open up a terminal. We're going to go to a directory where we want to be working in. So in my case, my current directory. And here now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do AWS configure. In my case, I already have everything set up, so it's going to just reuse the values. So you can see here AWS access key ID. In my case, I'm just using the one I already have here. Then the AWS secret access key, I just use the one I already have. Then I choose a region name. This is just a default region. And then I say default output, in my case, none. That's it. I'm logged in. I'm authenticated now. And what this means is that I can use now AWS in Python if I have the Boto 3 package installed. Now, for this video today, I'm going to use UV as a package manager. Don't be confused by that. If you don't know what that means, you can do everything in the exact same way by just using pip. So if you want to install something, just use pip or pip3 install. And then what we're going to use here is Boto 3 and also Pydantic for a small structured output example. Actually, we're also going to use instructor. So if you want to use this, you have to type it in quotation marks, instructor Bedrock, just so we can get structured output from Bedrock as well. This is optional. If you don't want to do that, you can omit these two packages. This is the one that you need to connect to AWS Bedrock. And this is how you do it with pip. The reason I'm going to use UV is just because I'm always going to use UV now. It's just faster and better. If you don't know about UV, you can watch my video. Otherwise, just go with pip. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to initiate or initialize here a new project, UV init, let's call it tutorial. Then I'm going to go into that and I'm going to say UV add Boto 3 instructor, or actually, first of all, Pydantic and then instructor Bedrock. There you go, everything added. This is why I use UV and not pip. And now we can manipulate the main PY file. And here now we're going to keep it simple. We're going to say import JSON. We're going to say import Boto 3. Then we need to create a Bedrock engine or Bedrock runtime. So we're going to say Bedrock underscore runtime is equal to boto3 dot client, and we're going to say Bedrock runtime, actually with a hyphen, not with an underscore. And then I'm going to also say region name, and this is now important. You want to pick the region that you're using where you have the models enabled. In my case, this is EU West 3. So this is Paris. Now, this is the client that we're going to use. The rest is quite straightforward. We provide a prompt. For example, I can say, what is the global interpreter lock in Python? Question mark. And then we need a payload. Then we need some arguments that we can feed into our call. And for this, we can go to the page of the model. So here now, I can go back. I can go to the providers. I can go to Mistral. And I can say if I want to use the Mistral large model, I can click on it. And down here, I can see how this is used. So I can scroll down here to the API request. I can copy that, but I will have to manipulate a couple of things here. So I can just copy paste this, but I have to change certain things. First of all, let's call this payload here. Or actually, it's not payload. It's parameters, let's say. And here I have the model name, I have the content type, I have the accept. I can keep all of this as it is, but for the body, I need to change some things. I need to actually say that this is now a JSON object, and I'm just going to replicate it. So I'm going to say JSON dump into a string. Actually, I can also just formulate the string or type the string manually if I want to, but I'm not going to do that. So let me just restructure this properly here. There you go. And we're going to say the prompt is equal to, now we're going to use an F string. The F string is going to be this opening tag S, then in square brackets instruction, and then here we're going to say prompt, and then we're going to just say square brackets slash instruction. Then we'll want to have the max token, so you can change that if you want to. Let's keep it just at 200. Then for the temperature, we're going to say 0.2. We want a conservative response. Then for top P, I'm going to go with a default of 0.9. And then for the top K, which I think is the top K token it considers in the probability distribution, here we're going to go with 50. And of course, I need to surround these here with quotation marks. There you go. So that should be it. Now, what we need to do in order to get the output is we now need to say Bedrock runtime dot invoke, or was it invoke? Yeah, invoke model. And we just have to pass the parameters, but we have to unpack them with these double asterisks. And as a result of that, we're going to get the, that is going to be saved into a response object. And the response will then have a field called body. And we want to read that stream. So that is going to be a stream. We want to read that stream. So now I'm going to just close this. I'm going to say uv run main.py. In your case, just Python 3 main.py. And this is now going to send the request. It's going to get a response. There you go. This is the response from Mistral. And like this is like the most simple Hello World example that you can go with. But that is essentially how you connect yourself to your AWS. You just have your credentials. You connect yourself to your AWS account, and then you have your models on demand, and you pay per token usage. So you don't pay all the time because your model exists. You just pay per use, unless, of course, you have some custom model. I think when you fine-tune, there is some different arrangement there. But for the simple model use, that's how you do it. Now, let us look at a second example just so we have something more interesting. We're going to do structured output. How do we do that? We do that by importing here from enum, import enum. Then from Pydantic, I'm going to import the base model. Actually, I want to use a string enum. So I'm going to go with str enum. And then we're going to say, actually, we're going to just say import instructor. So I already have a video on instructor on this channel. What we're going to do now is we're going to have the Bedrock runtime still, and we're now going to say client is equal to instructor from Bedrock, and we're going to pass the Bedrock runtime. So this is going to allow us to do structured output, and we're going to do it by defining a model. Let's say we want to have a model called programming language that is going to inherit from the base model from Pydantic. It's going to have a name, the programming language. It's going to have a release year, which is an integer. It's going to have also a paradigm or multiple paradigms. So it's going to have a list of, and for this we're going to use an enum, so I'm going to just keep it empty for now. And then we want to have maybe similar languages. So similar languages, it's going to be a list of strings, but we want to specify something. So I'm going to also import here the field. And here I'm going to say field ... and then I'm going to say description is equal to the names of similar programming languages. And then maybe no additional text. And then we can define an enum class. So I can say class and then programming paradigm, which is string enum. And then we can just do some stuff like, I don't know, functional is equal to functional. And for the rest, I'm just going to copy paste because I don't want to do this here manually, just wasting your time. There you go. Procedural, logical, concurrent, object-oriented. Feel free to add whatever you want. I have an other here. And now we can do something else. We can remove all of that, and we can say in a very similar, or in a way that's very similar to the basic OpenAI API and so on, we can just say client.chat.completions.create. And now I can say model ID. Now I deleted that, so I probably should have kept that. It's Mistral.Mistral-2402 minus version 1:0. That is the identifier. Then I'm going to say messages. This is going to be a list of the message history or conversation history. And here I'm just going to say role, user, content, and then we can provide the prompt. Or actually we need to, in this case, provide a dictionary. The dictionary is going to have text, and this is going to contain the prompt. And finally, this is now where we get to structured output. We need to define the response model being equal to programming language. And then I can, actually I don't have the prompt, so let me just inject it here directly. Give me information about Haskell. And maybe we can do also compiled, interpreted. I don't know, maybe it can do that without me having to specify an enum. All right, so that would be that. This would be stored in a response, and actually the response already would be an object, so we don't need to do anything else. We can just say here print response, and this will be an instance of the Pydantic class. So now we can say uv run main.py, and of course I have a problem because I didn't specify the enum. I need to say here programming paradigm in the list, and then we have hopefully a meaningful output. Name Haskell, release year 1990, paradigms functional, similar languages Erlang, Scala, OCaml, F#, compiled, interpreted, compiled. Perfect output. And yeah, that would be another use case. You can now be creative with that. There's also more features. If you're interested in more AWS Bedrock tutorials, let me know in the comment section down below. If you're also interested in maybe something like SageMaker, let me know in the comment section down below. If you're interested in something like Google Vertex AI, let me know in the comment section down below. But that's it for this video. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and hope you learned something. If so, let me know by hitting a like button and leaving a comment in the comment section down below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell to not miss a single future video for free. Other than that, thank you much for watching. See you in the next video, and